Hello, everyone. Let me restart that. Hello, everyone. My name is 2-4. I'm commentating over the FedeCampo versus emforbes set for NPA. A little bit about me. Nothing much really, other than I commission, manage, and foresee activities regarding USPA. I am known as 2-4 on Twitter. I once got popular. Let me rephrase that. I had a tweet blow up in fall of last year with over 1 million views. And it was basically saying that like I'm playing VGC because I had a sign from God. What else about me? That's about it, really. I've been playing since 2017, so I know a little bit about the game. I'm not as good as the players that I'll be commentating over, but I will do my best to try to explain some of their thought processes and some of what they might be thinking during the set, especially since it is emforbes versus FedeCampo. I will say that these players are very good at the game. One of them just won San Diego Regionals. It's a California regional that just happened in Red Guy. It was the last Red Guy event of this year, and FedeCampo has won Nats last year before Worlds, like the format before Worlds, and so he won that tournament. And also emforbes has gotten second at Worlds. He's been like he's really good at the game. FedeCampo just won a grand challenge with Ariados. Very prolific Italian player, probably the best, if not the second best Italian player that we have ever had in the game. Second to Marco Fierro, or I think Mean. I think his name is Mean VGC. I think he was Italian. When he won Worlds in 2013, I think it's what it was. Maybe it was 2012. No, it had to have been 2013 because Cedron Park won in 2014. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started with these teams. It is a Mega Floette matchup versus a Frostlass matchup. FedeCampo running the Frostlass team. Overall, like it's a pretty interesting Frostlass team. It just kind of it's Mega Frostlass with 3 of the best Pokemon that we have in the game, plus Garchomp, plus Rotom, which like nothing really to say other than like, you know, he's got Focus Sash Garchomp to help with like surviving hits that you wouldn't normally see with like, I don't know, let's say like Sylveon Hyper Beam. You want to live with Sylveon Hyper Beam or Hyper Voice or whatever, like Hyper Voice Crate. You just live it with Focus Sash instead of running a Resist Berry, which most Garchomps, or at least all the Garchomps that I run, they're all Resist Berry. But he's actually running Focus Sash, which makes a lot of sense. And he's got Rock Tomb instead of Rock Slide, which I suspect that's for a tech against a Rigov team, since the Rigov team just recently won the 6,000 player tournament, and it had Wide Guard Aerodactyl. So you know, having a pretty decent Charizard matchup there, but he's not playing Charizard, he's playing Floette, like I said. So overall, pretty sick team. And then for emforbes, let me play a team up. Again, we got the tried and true King Gambit Basket Legion core. He's got Garchomp, but this time Emforbes has got Floette, Talonflame, Aegislash, which is pretty cool. Let's see. The only thing that's like pretty interesting that I would think here is this like Citrus Berry Galtrumpa Scale Shot, because most of the time when you run Scale Shot, they've been running Dragon Fang for more damage on the Scale Shot damage. But it looks like Emforbes is just going for the gamble here with Scale Shot, and like really want to be faster than opposing Garchomps, like after a +1 and stuff like that. So like a pretty cool set nonetheless. Also the Focus Sash Aegislash, popularized by Marco after he got 7th in the Grand Challenge, except he ran no King Shield. He ran Wide Guard over King Shield. I kind of like Focus Sash. I think it's a cool tech, especially like after living a hit from Charizard, and you can Oko it back with Poltergeist plus Shadow Sneak. Pretty cool sets overall. But yeah, I mean we can kind of get into it. Overall, I think the matchup, I feel like for me the matchup is skewed in Forbes' favor, just because like Floette is just a ridiculous Pokemon. Especially since like the way that you're Okoing Floette is with this Sneasler and Basculegion, and that's really it. So you like once you get those two key pieces off the field, it'll be pretty set sailing. Like you have Aegislash, King Gambit, like you have your own Basculegion, you have Talonflame. Talonflame was pretty good against the Sneasler and Basculegion, and then you have the priority like into the Basculegion. You just have a bunch of options to kind of counter Floette's counters. So I suspect this will be a really good match, but like I said, I have a feeling it's skewed in Forbes' favor just because of this Floette and of how busted it is. So we can go ahead and get right into it. FedeCampo's choosing Sneasler Frostlass. That makes sense, especially against Forbes' team. Because if I'm Fede, I'm suspecting probably like a Talonflame Floette, so like just going for the Fake Out plus Blizzard, just getting a lot of damage for a potential. I would assume he brings Bask back, maybe not, just to get damage off into his Floette. But yeah, it looks like he doesn't bring Basculegion. Okay, we can go ahead and get into it. Let's see, Talonflame Floette, yeah, like I said, Talonflame Floette. Frostlash Sneasler, like I said, I suspect right now there's gonna be a Blizzard plus Fake Out from Fede's side to get a ton of damage onto this Floette plus Talonflame, and then I suspect the Talonflame to just go for Tailwind D-Gleam and just try to get as much damage off. On it, you could also, I guess you could also argue you could go for a Brave Bird into Sneasler. Which at that point you just swap out into your King Gambit, but then whatever, like it doesn't matter that you swap out into King Gambit, like you're still going to take a ton of damage from Dazzling Gleam. So maybe a Fake Out into Floette might be a little better, and then but yeah, I think this position looks kind of bad from Fede's side, just because of the offensive pressure that this Floette is like really about to put on. Yeah, so we see the Blizzard, Orveil. Yeah, Orveil makes sense. Fake Out into Floette. No, okay. Yeah, the Orveil comes out. Fake Out into Floette. Yeah. So, a lot of things could happen right now. Brave Bird from Talonflame into Sneasler just Okos it straight up. Floette not going to be able to do anything this turn because it's going to be a Fake Out. The Frostlass going for the Mega here and going for the Orveil like we saw. And the Frostlass is faster than this Floette, which doesn't really mean much. Frostlass is a pretty fast Pokemon regardless. I've seen some Frostlass that they run like max bulk, so they run no speed. And so I've seen some Floette outspeed Frostlass, but I don't believe that to be the case right now, especially. But yeah, we see the fairy aura coming out, which gives a boost to its fairy type attacks to everyone on the field. Brave Bird also comes out into Sneasler going down. And one of the 2 counters to Floette on this team has been eliminated. We see the Oroville come out, of course. So now, now we're kind of, I feel like if you're Fede, you're kind of put into a position where you don't have this Basculegion, which I thought was another Pokemon to really counter this Floette, especially with like Wave Clash and Last Respects. But the King Gambit does come out, and now I think we will see a obviously like Blizzard Sucker Punch might do the trick. Oh, he's Iron Head. Is that what he's? Wait a second. It is Iron Head. Okay, then there's 3 counters. I didn't read Iron Head. It's my fault. So that's actually huge. The fact that he has Iron Head. So now there's 3 counters you have to worry about. One of them being King Gambit, and now it's under an Aurora Veil. So it's like, okay, like what do you do here? I suspect Emilio to go for a Protective plus Tailwind to try to get faster than his Frost Slice, especially. And then, or you could go for Flare Blitz plus Deep Gleam. That would probably pick up the KO on King Gambit, depending on this Floette and Talonflame's attack investment into this King Gambit, assuming it's max HP. But we see the swap out into King Gambit. Okay, this King Gambit does have low kick on emforbes. King Gambit does have low kick. With the Culber Berry, so it does counter this King Gambit plus Frost Blast. There's no good damage on the field that could reliably OHKO this King Gambit. So now you're kind of put in a position where you not necessarily have to target the King Gambit slot, but you could double attack the Floette slot and try to OHKO with Iron Head plus Blizzard. Fede could swap out into Rotom, since we saw the Rotom, and I believe he's actually doing that right now. And that's actually one of the only ways to stop this King Gambit from doing a lot of damage is with that Will-O-Wisp, assuming you hit, of course. But we will find out what Forbes does here. I think if I'm Forbes, I go for either a swap into someone or just go for Light of Ruin plus low kick, or try to make a read and go for the Frost slot instead. But we see the Blizzard come out. Blizzard on the Floette does a sizable amount of damage and it freezes. That's huge. That's actually so huge. One of the main ways of doing any damage from Emilio's side has just been neutered because of the freeze on the Floette. And we see we're just gonna see Blizzard plus Will-O-Wisp again. There's 3 turns for Floette to thaw, but I think it's like a 33% chance each time. So the chances of Floette coming out of this freeze are super slim. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know it's definitely a better chance to come out of freeze than not, basically. So. But yeah, Fede is in a great position right now, especially after that freeze. I thought that he would go, or that Forbes would just go for a Deep Gleam plus low kick into, or Deep Gleam plus Light of Ruin into the Rotom slot, because no matter what, it just OHKO'd that slot. So we see the Protect come out. That makes sense. Another Blizzard is going to come out onto Forbes' side, and the Sash is going to be broken. And then we see a Will-O-Wisp into the King Gambit. Okay. Wow. So, wow, you're really in a pickle because of that freeze, huh? Dang. So, I mean, you, FedeCampo can just go for a Will-O-Wisp, right? Will-O-Wisp with Shadow Ball. Or even, maybe a double up into Aegis Splash with Shadow Ball plus Thunderbolt or Hydro Pump. But really, honestly, this King Gambit, if Fede really needs to get a freeze in order to win here, not a freeze, sorry, a burn in order to win, and like once he gets a burn, it kind of seals the game. This King Gambit is just a monster into the rest of Fede's team. So we see a swap out back into the King Gambit, probably trying to take any damage from this Aegislash, but the Aegislash actually swaps out into Floette. And then we see the swap out from King Gambit into Talonflame. Actually, Talonflame is still left on the field, and Will-O-Wisp is not going to affect the opposing Talonflame. So now we're really hoping and praying for a thaw onto Floette and to try to do damage into this King Gambit. Whether or not you go for the read and to just go for God, Fede, bro, what are you doing? Just click a move, bro. Like, sitting here. Okay, anyway, sorry, that super distracted me. Whether or not you read King Gambit going for a protect or not is futile at this point, because you really are hoping for this unthaw. And so if you don't get the unthaw, then you're kind of cooked. Flare Blitz does come out into the King Gambit. That's going to do a sizable amount of damage, just 67. Gosh dang it, it's 6-7. And I'm like, the Floette is just frozen solid, of course. You know, it's Pokemon. Talonflame is going to go down. And it's a crit. The crit doesn't matter. It was like 40%, right? Recheck. It was 35%. Crit didn't matter. Ironhead is going to come out into the Floette. This is basically a GG. Congratulations to FedeCampo on game 1. There's nothing much that you can do now. It's a 3v1. It's Rotom versus King Gambit versus... well, it's actually a 2v1. My apologies. It's a King Gambit versus Aegislash versus Frostlass, Rotom, and King Gambit. You really have to... I feel like if you're in this position, you got to go for a freeze plus a Will-O-Wisp into... Or not a freeze, a Kowtow Cleave into Aegislash plus... Will-O-Wisp into King Gambit. Maybe, honestly, you could also might go for a Kowtow into the King Gambit swap plus Hydro Pump. But we will see the Sucker Punch into the Aegislash into Poltergeist, which it does hit, and the Poltergeist is going to do a lot of damage, about 100 HP. And the Stitch Parry is going to activate. And Aegislash avoids the attack from Will-O-Wisp. And so now you're still kind of in a rough pickle, because like you kind of hope for how do I put this effectively? Basically, like, you still have Shadow Sink into Aegislash, so you could always go for Shadow Sink into Rotom, and you still have Low Kick. And because you missed the Will-O-Wisp into the Aegislash isn't going to go down. If you went for the Will-O-Wisp into the King Gambit, then the game is probably locked. But because of that just happened, the Aegislash doesn't go down. And now you're in a pickle because of Shadow Sneak plus Low Kick, which could be pretty big. The thing is, though, I'm pretty sure this King Gambit has a Chople Berry. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, both King Gambits have Chople Berry. So, what do you go for? Do you go for a Poltergeist or do you go for Shadow Sneak, right? Yeah, we see a Shadow Sneak come out. Let's see how much damage it does. Does 70-ish. So 2 Shadow Sneaks won't be able to OHKO it, but a Sucker Punch might. And if a Sucker Punch OHKOs this Frostlass, we are in tough luck, I will say. But we'll see what happens. I guess also, like, this King Gambit might be faster than Aegislash, so you could go for a Sucker Punch, but it probably is not, since it's a Sash Aegislash. But we might see the Oravel come out, which is pretty good. You might honestly live a Low Kick from the opposing King Gambit, but I am not too sure about that calc. We do see a stance change come out, which means that it's going to go for King Shield. And from there, we are going to see a Blizzard into this, into the double steel types, which honestly, like, you're just looking for that chip into, you're kind of looking for that chip into Kingambit, and it goes for it gets another freeze! Oh my goodness gracious! FedeCampo going, like, getting freeze twice. And, like, that's great. This is nuts, right? Like, going for the double freeze, getting it. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I like, honestly, I don't know what to say. After that freeze is kind of locked. If you don't get the freeze on Floette, it might be a little fine for you, but if you get the freeze on Kingambit, then it's like, okay, now this seals the deal. I was saying earlier that, like, you know, it might not seal the deal. But now it's basically sealed the deal. So GG's to Fede. I called it earlier in the match, but honestly I shouldn't have called it that early. But that's okay. Now we're ready to move on. So adjustments. If I'm let me think. If I'm in Forbes, I probably do the same thing, except I think it was okay to bring the Pokemon that was brought. However, if you don't get the freeze on Floette, it makes it a lot more difficult, honestly. And I think, like, not having more ways to Oko Kingambit was a problem. So if I'm in Forbes, I probably bring Garchomp over Aegislash because of that reason. And especially since, like, the Basculegion wasn't brought. Like you saw both Kingambit and Aegislash be brought from in Forbes. And so if I'm FedeCampo, I don't think I'm bringing Basculegion into that, especially since one of them is Sash. Like, they both have priority moves to do a lot of damage to Basculegion. There's just a lot of priority moves from that side in general. But we will see what happens next. We just go ahead and skip this. Yeah. Campo run it back. Makes sense. Makes sense that he'll run it back. Honestly, like, I think since Campo's Garchomp is Sash, I think, like, the Sash Garchomp would be pretty decent into Enforbes side. Especially with that ground coverage, just doing a lot of damage in general, like Earthquake plus Blizzard. You've got Rock Tomb plus, like, Dire Claw stuff. Rock Tomb can do really good into Talonflame. Like, I think that's a pretty good bring. And the Rough Skin gets rid of Focus Sash. Like, I think it's a pretty good bring. Let's see, but it's okay that Campo didn't bring it. We can go ahead and skip ahead. Frostlass, Sneasler, Aegislash this time. Interesting. Okay, so Campo basically, not Campo, Forbes basically saying, like, you know, you led the Sneasler. Let me just bring a Pokemon that can, like, wall out Sneasler for no reason, and I don't know why this type matchup is in the game, but it is. Which is awesome, by the way, because screw Sneasler. We will see that Orville come out again, and Fake Out come out from Campo. I suspect maybe a Poltergeist plus Tailwind, honestly. That seems like a pretty decent move. You could go for Brave Bird plus Poltergeist, but I never see an Aegislash not going for Poltergeist here onto this Frostlass. Yeah, so we see the Orville come out. Stance change, yup. So what are we gonna see? We're gonna see the Poltergeist probably. Okay, yup. Poltergeist is gonna come out. Frostlass doesn't do that much. So we know from last game that the Frostlass took... I'm gonna pause it here for a second. The Frostlass took 70 from a Shadow Sneak that wasn't under Aura, but it was under Snow. So we... What's the... I think it's like 1 point... What's the... I think it's like 1.5. Or divided by like 1.5. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Shadow Sink is probably a roll. If I had to bet money on it, I think Shadow Sink is probably a roll. Maybe not. We'll see though. Caesar not really doing much on the field though. Honestly, we'll probably see a Tailwind or a Brave Bird plus a Shadow Sneak into Frostlass, and like I said, the Frostlass is probably the Shadow Sneak is probably not going to kill the feint the Frostlass. However, we will see what happens next in this scenario. I could also see a Tailwind coming out from emforbes just to get the speed control, especially against this Frostlass. The speed control seems pretty decent. Especially against these like Frostlass teams, and if you get like an example, a Garchomp in against this team, it would be pretty decent if you had speed control. But we see a swap out. Okay, so yeah, so we see the swap out. That makes sense. The Caesar going for Protect. Will we see the Brave Bird or the Tailwind coming from from emforbes? Okay, so Flare Blitz makes a lot of sense. That actually makes a lot of sense now, because now you have a Floette that's potentially about to go under Tailwind against a Caesar Rotom, and especially like you definitely want to be faster than a Caesar. However, the question is now, do you just swap out your Caesar into King Gambit? Or do you just go for the double up with the Light of Ruin plus Flare Blitz? Actually, well, or do you just go for the double up with Tailwind? So I think Fede is probably making a read here, saying like, hey, I don't think he's gonna go for Tailwind. I think he's gonna go for a Brave Bird and a Sneasler. And if that's the case, if you go for Brave Bird, then like, you still have a Rotom on the field. Wait, that play doesn't make any sense. Hold on. My play that I just said doesn't make any sense. Anyway. We see the Brave Bird come out into the Sneasler. That makes sense. No. No, you're lying. That didn't Oko with a Brave Bird plus to a Sharp Beak? No. That's crazy. That's also a super bulky Floette. The Dazzling Gleam is going to come out, pick up the Sneasler. It's not going to pick up the Rotom, though. Now you're in a pickle, alright? Because realistically, the Talonflame's going to go down to a Thunderbolt, and you have a low HP in Blizzard range Floette, plus Aegislash in the back, and probably a King Gambit. If we're bringing the same 4 Pokemon, it's probably a King Gambit. So what do you do now? Who do you bring in? Do you bring in Aegislash? No, I think you probably bring King Gambit, right? Yeah, so King Gambit comes out. So now we're kind of in a pickle, right? So like a Sucker Punch is still available on the field. You have the Will-O-Wisp coming out onto Enforb side. And so we actually see the swap out into Aegislash, which this makes a lot of sense. You know, you don't want to go for the you don't want to get Oko'd by your Sucker Punch from Fede's King Gambit, and also Will-O-Wisp is going to come out into the King Gambit slot. And so now I feel like if you're Fede, you just try to do the same thing again, and except this time you just go for Cataclysm like this Aegislash is doing. This Aegislash actually has no way of hitting Rotom for a lot of damage because Poltergeist doesn't work against a no-item Rotom, and it doesn't have any moves that hit Kingambit for super effectively. Most of the time they run like Close Combat or Sacred Sword. But we actually see the Iron Head come out onto the Rotom. I suspect it's about to go for a flinch, which it doesn't get it, and the Willows is about to come out into Kingambit, which it hits. And now we have a burn Kingambit on the field with going for a Kowtow into the Rotom. I feel like if you go for the flinch, then you're like super duper in a pickle. But we see the Aegislash hanging on with 1 HP because of the the Focus Sash. Kowtow Cleave going into the Focus Sash, and it ends in a forfeit. Congratulations to FedeCampo. Emforbes kind of seeing like, hey, I'm probably not going to win this because I don't have enough resources in order to take down the Kingambit. So yeah, congratulations to FedeCampo. And this is 2Die4 signing off. Thank you guys for watching.